Star Trek: The Next Generation was a show.
Star Trek: The Next Generation
everybody
was
I interacted
a show that I started watching when I was a really little kid. Can you believe it's been 30 years? Star Trek: The Next Generation first.
Star Trek: The Next Generation was my life as a kid. It was the escape from reality.
Welcome to Next Generation's First Generation, where Patrick Delmore and Sascha Schaudies take a look back into their favorite childhood show, Star Trek: The Next Generation. This is where we attempt to reconcile how we felt as children watching the show and looking back as old farts now in our late 30s, almost 40s.
Welcome back to Next Generation's First Generation, a Star Trek: The Next Generation watch-along podcast. Today we are looking at the 22nd episode of Season 3 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Most Toys, which is a data-centric episode. We're watching it on our Chinese knockoff DVD. We're sitting in the chapter log here, and we're going to give a countdown after I introduce everybody. Sasha's here today, my regular co-host.
Hello!
And Matt is here.
Hi.
You can hear us every week on Two True Freaks talk about Star Trek Picard on View from the Bridge. And now, without further ado, our commentary for The Most Toys. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Listen to those gears grind.
Another beautiful shot of that ship.
Yeah, the light was off in the deflector ray. That's not the deflector ray. What is that, Matt?
Main deflector dish.
Oh, it is? Okay.
And then the Winnebago of space, that little chevron-shaped freighter that
I know.
everybody seems to have.
It's sad that it's the Pike, too, this little bitty guy.
So I guess there's poison in the well, and the Federation needs to get some kind of medicine from a private salesman in space, and this is one of the rare times where we actually see privateers. We don't see a lot of civilian ships in space in the show.
Yeah, the Ferengis are all, for the most part, in it for themselves, but most of the time we see the Ferengis, they're government representatives.
Yeah, the Ferengi has the Ferengi Alliance. They're not really defined well in this, but
some great acting from Brent Spiner here. Just falls backwards with
light
his
as a
hands
feather, straight as a board.
26.8 kilos tripolymer.
So he's obviously been assaulted here by this woman, and she's calling out the mass and composition of data. And what we're about to see is that they are going to
Enterprise crew is going to be tricked into thinking Data got blowed up real good.
Here comes the shuttlecraft floating through the space. Why are they so... Whoa!
Because what's in there is really volatile.
Ah, okay. So Data just exploded. You think they keep a transporter lock on him?
No, because I think they said that they can't transport it because it's so unstable.
yeah, but I keep a transport lock on Data, not the materials.
Or why couldn't they have had the shuttle piloted remotely?
Because then this episode would already be over.
Yeah.
I mean, what this plays into is the idea that everybody and their brother that knows that Data is on the Enterprise would be trying to steal Data off the Enterprise.
Well, yeah. I mean...
this is a guy that's doing it because, he just wants him as an artifact. But he's got all of this information in him that, in theory, if you've got an intelligent enough computer expert, you can probably extract that information from him without torture or without, what constitutes torture.
So, it's May 5th, 1990. This is when this came out. Holy smokes. This was directed by Tim Bond, music by Dennis McCarthy, written by Sherry Goodharts, and cinematography by Marvin Rush. Now, do you remember watching this as it came out?
Nope, I didn't see this until I was in my 20s, probably. I had no idea this was even an episode.
I remember watching it. This is about the time in my life where I would run home after playing with my friends. I'd come home. I'd sit and watch this, and then we had a sister channel that showed the same exact episode, but they were on like a 3-minute delay. And so during commercial breaks, I would switch over to the other station and pick up the the last bit that I missed.
That's cool.
Just to go back, so I wouldn't have to watch the commercials.
Captain's log supplemental.
No, how we would usually watch it, not yet, not in 1990. It'd be a couple of years, but my mom usually had something she would be up to on a Sunday night. So we would watch it live, tape it, and then after church we'd come home and watch it again with my mom.
There you go.
And that more took effect when Deep Space Nine came on. And there's Saul Rubinek, the villain of the episode.
Yeah, he's
No.
he's had quite the career.
Mr. Parker, I would like to analyze...
Most recent thing I saw him in was The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Coen Brothers' most recent movie.
He was also in Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood.
Yes. Not, now unlike Roger Ebert, I would not mistake him for Gene Levy in Rush Hour 2. You can peek at that review online if you want to see where somehow Roger Ebert thought an Academy Award nominated actor was an SCTV comedian.
So sadly, we have to say that Saul was cast to replace the original actor, David Rapport, who had unfortunately lost his life to suicide.
Now, what was the name of the actor again?
David Rappaport.
Look him up, because that name sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, he's a dwarf actor. He was in Time Bandits, The Bride, L.A. Law, The Wizard, Captain Planet, and The Planeteers.
Okay, I think I've got it in my head who that is.
I think
He's not the guy from Wild Wild West, is he? Michelito Loveless?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious.
That would have made sense if that was him playing this part.
Yeah, he was
the big the big bad, to turn a phrase, in the Wild Wild West, which when they had Kenneth Branagh play a version of that character who was Arliss Lovelace, not Michelito Loveless, he, rather than being a dwarf, since Kenneth Branagh is not a dwarf, had both of his legs severed from the knees down.
Oh my.
Yeah. And we should say little person, not dwarf.
So if you remember, the actor that we're talking about, he played the leader of the dwarves in Time Bandits. His name was Randall.
Huh.
He wore that pilot's hat.
Yes.
With the leather hat with the goggles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can see, as terrible as it is to say this about Saul Rubinek's costume, it looks like something they put a little person in. Particularly the cap that he has on.
He kind of reminds me of, like, if Peter Pan came from New Jersey.
And
I'll buy that.
had grown up and not married Wendy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Peter Pan had grown up and gone into the area of high finance or commodities trading.
He really pulls the character together quite well. Though it's kind of weird how he's kind of talking loudly and slowly to Data.
I would like to know the reason. Certainly. You?
He actually reminds me of a friend of mine who called into the show once.
Yep.
Eddie.
Yep.
Ed Guldowski.
Yep.
He came to talk about that mathematical theorem on Skype. And I could see him playing this character very well.
Can I call you Data?
I think that, what's the name of the character? I keep calling him Saul Rubinek, but...
Kivas Faggio.
Baggio, yeah.
Okay, so Faggio is like Riker when he first met Data, and when Data told him he was the second officer of the Enterprise, Riker was like, "Oh, is that an honorary thing?" This guy doesn't really get it. Like, again, he's not a Federation citizen.
My Starfleet duties would not allow.
He's just he's a privateer.
Yep. It's kind of like if Paul Allen decided to start a business on his yacht and started going around the...
Man cave in space is what this is.
So we kind of talked over the plot. Data and Fajo are having a conversation about your mind. You're staying here now. And Data says, no, I can't help you with that. And he tries to force the door, and Mr. Data can't do the Superman move anymore.
What I think is interesting is that Kivas Fajo here, says, well, he's done his research, so he knows a lot about Data. And knew enough to how to get him and stuff like that and how to set him up. But has no idea about lore, because he keeps referring to him as the only sentient android. And a one-of-a-kind piece. Well, at this point, in reality, he's 3 of a kind, but at this point, he's 2 of a kind. And you have to think it would be easier to steal lore than an active-duty android on the flagship.
Lore might have been classified, though.
Yeah, how would you... So if he started at the colony where Data was built and tracked him from there, yeah, he would have probably figured out about lore. But if he just read about Data being on the Enterprise and hadn't done his research,
I think he would have done. He's done his research on everything he owns here. Mm-hmm. And that's this thing, is he's meticulous about the details of things, the way he describes everything.
And they might have not at this point thought that they were ever going to bring lore back. There might have been people in the writer's room that were like, lore was kind of a mistake. Let's just forget it.
Well, would you rather kidnap the evil robot or the safe robot?
Well, what's going to be easier? You're not going to be in trouble with the Federation or Starfleet if you kidnap
Yeah, they'd
lore.
be happy if you took lore off the table. He would actually probably be considered a hero. People like Bruce Maddox would have been coming to him.
Exactly.
To do,
Bruce Maddox would have been like, okay, well, would still consult with Data, but he's like, all right, so I'm pulling apart this now. But yeah, he would basically...
I love when Star Trek has, puppet aliens. This is something from the ship in Flight of the Navigator.
Right?
Well, yeah, he's just there. He knows a lot about everything in there. And has gone out of his way to acquire unique objects. It's he would have to know that Data's not unique.
How funny would that be? Sorry to interrupt you. How funny would that be if that was Gates McFadden doing the puppetry?
That would be funny.
Because she is a puppeteer.
She is.
At this time, she was, right?
Yes.
Not that kind of puppeteer, though.
That is your place of honor.
Yeah, I don't know what her specific puppetry discipline is.
I believe it's marionette puppets. Classical,
Yeah.
You think perhaps it might be uncomfortable? But then again, you don't give the thought to comfort, do you? When Gaylord talks
So...
words of that...
That is a shitty chair, though. I'm
Yeah.
going to sit in that.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if he had if the chair had belonged to the colony the Data was taken from.
Oh,
Exactly.
Like
this
that.
is
It
the
was from
exact
some
replica
stuff.
of the table they found you on, or something like that. Or, well, here's a copy of the chair you sit in on the bridge, and they have his bridge station there.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the way I would do it.
I think you should be...
Is I'd have a mock-up of his bridge station and have Data just sitting there.
Oh, behind the con?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
If you're gonna tell everybody the only sentient android in Starfleet, and I'd keep him in his uniform too. I wouldn't put him in other clothes. I'd be like
Somebody from...
Learn to live with it.
But my guess would be is he wants him out of his uniform because somebody who knows who Data is, or anybody that knows anything about the Federation, is like, well, that's funny. What's the deal with the second officer's uniform there?
I must emphasize...
Yeah, I guess, but
It actually draws less attention if he's put in a costume.
Yeah, used to it.
But you have to imagine anybody seeing this collection, though, is not really. Because a lot of these are legally obtained items.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it's like to hear Picard talk about it. Nobody would really care if you had the original Salvador Dali painting or that baseball card. It's funny that it's a baseball card because baseball cards come up again in Star Trek. Because you could have something, if it looked to most people now in the 24th century, if something looks exactly the same as something else, it doesn't matter that it's not the original. Because they've given up on caring about that. They've moved past that. That's the baseline for most people.
I want to disagree with you there, because they go over unique items a lot in this. It could be a copy, so anyone could have it, just like anybody have a print. But original artifacts, I mean, they still have museums. They'll go into this in Deep Space Nine. They go into this in Next Generation. Picard is an archaeologist, and when he brings back those artifacts and stuff, he's very enamored in it, and he keeps a Shakespeare under glass in there. He wouldn't be like, oh well, it's just a book. There are thousands of them. I can replicate whatever. If it's the original Salvador Dali from at this point a few thousand years ago,
look at all those medals.
It's not. It's 600 years ago.
Well, 600, whatever. But at any rate, he talks about all these artifacts that he has. Yeah, there are places, and then they even talk about at the end that they're like, yeah, we've repatriated everything you've stolen. It's...
So here we're looking at the third time or second time this little Tasha.
This will be the third time we've seen that
brought out.
Tasha thing, yeah.
And it's a really nice connection to say that, Data did have a personality of his own. Otherwise, that drawer would be completely empty. So Wesley and LaForge are going through Data's quarters, and they open this drawer that holds all of Data's personal effects. And so really, Data was beginning to build a life for himself, and he had these little mementos of meaningful connections.
And they do this again. They did this again as a deleted scene in Nemesis when he actually died.
That's right.
And it's Geordi and Worf.
Oh, that stock ship is so ugly.
It would only been 400 years for Salvador Dali, because that was the early 20th century, and this is the 24th century.
I have no reason to exceed Mr. Fajo's wishes.
Still, my point is...
Yeah, I know.
That, yes, there is... They wouldn't just dismiss stuff by saying, oh, it's just an object. We're beyond that now. They're absolutely not beyond that kind of stuff.
I think baseline people are. There are, there are exceptional people that do care, but a Riker, say, if he's your average guy, doesn't know who in the hell Salvador Dali is or what a baseball card is.
No, but there are people now who don't know what a Salvador Dali is or another, and just be like, it's a painting, so what? You're going to get that in any era.
Yeah.
Mr. Fajo has no moral difficulties.
So, Mr. Fajo here, she said a very interesting thing. He has no moral difficulties. The two scenes we've seen him in so far have always been him imposing his will, his dominance, like, this is going to happen. And he doesn't seem to have a problem with the consequences. Or maybe the consequences are beneath him.
He's one of those rich, powerful guys who gets what he wants and uses, he's found basically a way to force people to come, do whatever he wants.
He's not even that. He's moving around all the time. I mean, this is this space is kind of elaborate, but it's a man cave. It's not a museum. It's not Bill Gates' art collection. It's like the only people that are going to come see this are his weird friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was telling that she kind of touched her cheek there when she was talking about, the price for disloyalty can be equally unique.
Yeah, because her face is half melted.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought that was because that was her
No,
species.
it was a punishment.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
I know it's hard to accept, but even the best...
Captain, it's not only hard to accept with Data, it's impossible.
So Geordi's on. Geordi already knows this isn't why Data died.
Yeah, but he's also, Picard has to admit he's going through the stages of grief.
Yeah, he's in the denial phase.
He's got to make that determination, if this is legitimate or if this is just grief.
Like Roger's just sitting on the desk there.
All those decisions are about Jonathan Frakes' back and not which again we said before he builds into the Riker character really, really well.
I know, but he's just no. I'm just gonna if I were Picard, I'd be like,
get your ass off my desk.
What the hell are you doing on my desk?
On a flip side, though, you never see the office shot from that angle.
No,
I was just going to say, that's a corner of the
that's the view Livingston has. Quite literally. Or if you stuck your head out from the bathroom there, that's what you would see.
You just imagine Picard pulling an LBJ, yelling at Riker from the bathroom in there, giving the orders.
Oh, brother. He could probably get away with it.
I don't think he's comfortable enough with his body to let Riker do that.
No, but that would just be hilarious. He's just...
I want to say Riker's been on the bridge in a bathrobe before, though.
So why is Troy not having this conversation?
With Geordi?
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants the... What's Troy going to do? Geordi came to them. To say,
Yeah, and it's something the captain's got to...
Yeah.
It's like... Because, Captain Picard, like you said, he recognizes the stages of grief, and that's why he's giving him some latitude to basically be insubordinate and demanding. It's like, look, I totally get it. You know, your best friend, you literally watched your best friend vaporize. You're going to grasp at anything. And then on the other side, it'd be like, and, honest to God, what can hurt? Maybe you find something and... We do get him back, I mean, this is... Look at the crazy shit they've been through.
So Picard's reading this book. It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times! Stupid bookie!
No, he's basically reading about, how we'll never see Data's life again. I love this.
That would have been a great quote to open the Picard series with.
Well, I think they opened the Picard series pretty well.
But I'm just saying that would have been a good quote to go back to this episode.
They might still do it. We're only 5 episodes in.
Even if I chose to do so, it is doubtful that.
So this is just the same conversation they had in the last scene. You will do what I wish.
But it's all negotiations. I mean, this guy's had to what is it? Grind people down quite a bit. And again, he's very much of a psychological bent where it's like he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but
he wants to
doesn't
be loved.
He doesn't have any power other than the power of force, which is why he had to be, kidnapped from the Enterprise. If he was like a really rich guy, he would be in negotiations with Starfleet to buy Data and really take away his agency.
Mm-hmm.
But in this instance, he's got to, he's basically in a dungeon, and this guy's got to grind it out of him. And the only way he can do that is, switching back and forth very quickly between carrot and stick. You can have things you'll like, and Data will go, well, no, I'll counter that. And then it's like, well, I'll hit you then. Well, no, I'll give you something you like.
So here he's trying to justify a situation that he's better than Starfleet. He's not in war with anybody. He is not about the militaristic pacifism that Starfleet represents. And Data just calls him as like, no, you're for your own self-advancement and greed. One question I want to ask you, though, is why did Faja go into asking Data, have you killed anyone?
Well, because he's already figured out how he's going to manipulate him in the very end. And so he's planting the seeds of make Data draw their own conclusions instead of just flat out say, do what I tell you or I'm going to kill this person. He's not that blunt. He's making Data come... He's slowly building him up to, this is where I'm heading with this.
He wants not only Data to stay there, but also Data to love him.
In the meantime, here is something.
This is the ultimate... The ultimate question I have here is, what chemical is that?
And why would they send it to you in a champagne flute?
Right?
And not, a beaker.
So he just threw some acid-like material eating through Data's uniform. At first, when I was watching this, I thought it was eating through his skin panel or whatever it is on his chest.
It's funny, they follow up on this about Data and his modesty. Because him saying, I'd be okay with you going around naked, it's like, Data had, just like any child, but he's the size of a human, had to learn that he has to wear clothes to be proper. And this gets talked about in a later episode. So that look that he gives him is he's like, this is, I do have built into me like a sense of shame and what's appropriate and not appropriate. And you saying that to me, just means that you think that I'm beneath that.
Great.
You guys look that look, he's like, oh, this is my favorite uniform.
Yeah, right?
I got it from Derek on Deep Space Nine.
I love how he's asleep in his uniform
Yeah.
and wearing his shoes.
Yeah.
It didn't... that's just stuff I wouldn't notice as a
But you
kid.
would, when you work the way Jordy works, you just go home and collapse on your
On
bed.
a ship, yeah, you're working on a. You're not. This isn't like us when you go home for the weekend. This is literally, and he's chief engineer. So at any minute, the warp core is going to start breaching, or there's a Thoron leak, and he's got to come running out of his bedroom. And I'll admit he's blind, so maybe it's a little easier for him than have to go and try to find his boots, and he can just hop up, throw the visor on, and he's out the door.
Oh, and we hadn't mentioned this. Worf has been... He hasn't been given a rank promotion, but he's been given Data's job to work at ops. And
Data was a lieutenant commander, right?
Yeah,
right. Worf is a lieutenant junior grade.
No, he's a full lieutenant.
And this is where Troy just really hits it in the pigeonhole, saying, this is the second time you've asked to take a position because a colleague
and
has died.
that I like is the continuity tying together. I mean, Matt's right. If they had their druthers, they would have brought up the idea of lore. Even just the line like I searched and searched for your brother and I couldn't find him.
I honor Data's memory.
Yeah, or just like he was even more, it's just one of those. He's currently in a place that I can't get to him, so you're the next best thing. But going back to it, on his collar pips there, a lieutenant junior grade for Star Trek would have one solid and one with a black center. Somewhere in between the first and second season, he got a promotion from lieutenant junior grade to lieutenant. You just never see the ceremony or whatever. It's just Picard just kind of like coin flipped it to him one day and said, "Here, put this on."
It probably was when Tasha died.
I would imagine that kind of would be, and then they just, becoming a department head as a lieutenant junior grade would be really weird.
Oh, they're replaying the tapes to look for a reason why it exploded. So I'm kind of curious, are you guys a Team Worf or Team Riker when it comes to Troy?
Team Riker.
Okay, computer.
Yeah.
Now replay shuttle audio transmission.
This is
time index 04.
during the first 7 years on the Enterprise. And I mean, this episode really isn't about this, but I'll just mention it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
They had kind of a we're allowed to see whoever we want to policy. Now in
He didn't report the shuttle clearing the cargo bay of the Joker.
The Child,
It really wasn't even
Riker had a few not great moments with Troy,
Right.
but I think they had a backstory where they had reached a point where it was like, yeah, we can go through long periods where we're not necessarily together. We just watched Captain's Holiday, where she comes on the bridge and he tries to take her hand and she just does not want it.
Yep.
It was very graceful about it.
nothing he said or did during the entire mission. None.
And it's like, I think she had, a strong sexual attraction to Worf, and she got to, go through with that, and Worf wasn't hurt, and Riker wasn't hurt. Now, there is going to be the final episode of the series where Riker, in an alternate future timeline, Riker's a big grump to Worf about that they got together, but
But
So
that's not
here's-
unreasonable either.
No.
It's you're basically like a good friend of yours. Your ex-girlfriend choosing your good friend over
this
you.
actor just turned 100 last year. He's still alive.
Data, I'm delighted to see you dressed for the occasion.
So Faja's brought in a buddy of his
Yep.
to show off
Say hello
his
to
new
my
prize.
friend, Taylor Top.
That headband / nose thing just looks incredibly.
It does.
I know why they did it to make it look exotic, but it's just like the functionality of it. It's like it's just I would never wear that. There's no way, even as that alien, would that be comfortable.
Yeah.
He's
Look,
picking his middle
he's even
nose.
picking his like. So now you've got
His middle
Sting there
nose.
pulling on it, so it's clearly
He's on his way to Canto Bite after he changes out of that robe.
This is formerly Lieutenant Commander Data of the Federation Starfleet.
See, and he even introduces him to everybody else, Commander. So I would just leave him in my unit, leave him in his uniform.
It doesn't seem particularly sentient right
Well, he
now.
destroyed his uniform.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is I wouldn't have done that. I would have kept him in his.
I don't find this amusing.
Oh, he's getting mocked.
Yeah, because Data's not doing what he's supposed to do.
That's right. He's making full out of him. Man, that's good acting.
Yep.
He's gonna go all Harvey Weinstein.
He's saying so much by not doing anything. It's great.
Another great
I love this slide.
Well,
Yeah.
He falls well.
apologize for this.
Do not be upset, my friend. I'm having a delightful visit. Come along, Varia. You're much more fun than Buzz's new toy.
You'll regret this.
Data's like, yeah, I don't. It's like regret is not an actual thing that he has.
Yeah.
No entering the beta agony system, sir.
Well, if you were in that situation and you were Data, all you could do is not comply. It would make this guy so angry at you that...
Yeah, because if it were you and me, I'd start destroying his shit.
Ready to launch.
Oh, there you go.
But
Well-
Data won't inherently destroy something of cultural.
But if Data starts destroying things in that room, that doesn't help. If anything, he'll just be physically restrained.
Yeah, but then Cuffy, but it just, again, it's like I said, you or I'd be like, fuck this shit, I'm just gonna start smashing shit.
Well, Data's a pacifist.
Exactly. He's actually examining the artifacts, He's like, look at this. You saw him earlier when he was trying to simulate the noise to coax the little creature out, but he wasn't quite getting it right.
Right.
And then he's smelling the bubblegum scent and stuff, and...
He's got nothing else to do.
But that's his nature. As well, I'm here around all this stuff. He's probably mentally in his database cataloging shit, about it.
So they fired a probe into plot B.
I tried entering water table.
It's so weird to see Worf there.
I know he's like he's like me in any type of sporting arena. When they got those chairs, and you're just way too big for it, and you hope to God no one sits down next to you.
It almost seems like Worf's a little too big for that console.
He is. It's not built for him.
And Michael Dorn's kind of a big guy too. I mean,
He really is.
He is. Yeah. No. I think he's actually gained mass. I don't not necessarily weight, like fat, but mass since he sat in that chair in the first episode.
Yeah.
And then the first season.
Yeah. He does have his torso has like his shoulders look like they're a lot bigger and broader than they were then.
So our heroes here are about to find out that it's all been a ruse.
Yeah,
The
see, here's
Mona
Data
Lisa,
again.
look at
Tried
that.
to copy the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
style.
and that's exactly what he do. He could probably spend like years trying to get that right.
Yeah.
I would very much like our relationship to
Oh, Faja. He wants to change the relationship.
But no, this goes back to what Pat was saying. Is he was really pissed off before, and now he's like, "I want to be your friend. Why won't you be my friend?"
Well, Pat's right. His only skill here is negotiation or force.
And he's a businessman, so he's always going to try to negotiate with you.
I do not intend to sit in the chair. You will.
He has nothing that Data wants, though, is the problem. So he's like, here's a way that I know I could hurt you, and I'll stop doing that once you do what I want. Is really all that he has.
It's the early days of pin codes. Look at that. And it is a weapon.
It's his passcode with the pound sign at the end, or
It's the same combination I have on my luggage. 1, 2, 2, 3.
Patrick, I own 4. I sleep with one under my pillow at night, and I sleep very well knowing it's there, too. You know why?
That I would have liked it, Data being like, when you keep a gun under your pillow, you're more likely to kill yourself.
I know, just give a really good gun to
I mean, when you're hugging the pillow, you might accidentally, grab it and squeeze it.
Torturous, very painful.
Or you'd be like, statistically, disruptors are more likely used on the person owning them when not properly.
Yeah.
One of those kind of things. And
To possess.
I wonder if this disruptor was one of the ones that they had in that episode of Discovery where Harry Mudd is going all through the captain's arsenal.
I don't think so, because I don't think they were built that far back. I think they're a more recent one.
So this is a very interesting tactic. It's a gamble he's taking. So he's about to threaten his assistant's life to get Data's compliance. Now, why do you think this is? Does he suspect that Data has some empathy, that he doesn't want someone else to die?
Well, yeah, that's why he was testing him earlier with those questions.
That's part of his Starfleet training, is that he he is the dereliction of duty if he allows that woman to die.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that was part of the question, was pushing him on that. It's like, well, you're fundamentally...
It's like, if Data was a cop, he couldn't allow that guy to shoot the woman if he had the ability to stop it. Like, literally, it would, whether or not he's being held captive, it's still his job to protect human lives.
Curious.
That is not clean looking water, Dr.
No.
Crusher there. It looks like someone dumped a whole bunch of milk into it.
Does not respond this quickly.
So what they're discovering
What
through
is he ducking
Technobabble
for?
is that there was nothing wrong. Look at that quartz. That's beautiful. But they realize that the well's been poisoned this whole time. And
It's not just the well, it's the water supply for it's the whole aquifer.
Yeah.
And this is this looks like it's the redressed set from the end of Captain's Holiday. This
It really does. You think they shot within the same week?
Could be.
I mean, they're only 3
These are all
episodes.
modular things, because you'll see this same set repainted again for several different, whenever we beam down the...
Final Mission, it's in that one, too.
Yeah, and I think it's in that one where they're going in the chase, also, where they're trying to find the progenitors and stuff. And
So they figured it out. Fajo framed them.
Possibly. What, to make a profit from the sale of hytrinium?
It doesn't add up. The cost of producing tricyanate is very expensive. He wouldn't make a profit on it. Quite the contrary.
Then why would he do it?
Did a biographical file on trader Kivas Fajo.
So they're going to bring up the Wikipedia. Zabalians. Have we ever heard of them before? No.
I don't think so.
It's weird that the Enterprise computer has a file on him, though.
The Federation would have a file on him, though. He's a prominent person. I mean, it would be like, the government's, somebody in the government saying, hey, grab us our file on, Paul Allen. They have some idea about him, Or, again, just Wikipedia. There would be a Wikipedia entry. I mean, the Enterprise computer...
He's less Paul Allen than he is like an Arab sheik.
Right, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They were just any prominent rich person who has of influence in areas would be,
It's funny that you mentioned that because of the episode title, The Most Toys, was inspired by a phrase brought up by Malcolm Forbes. He was a flamboyant millionaire, and he would say, he who dies with the most toys wins.
Huh.
So, it's really interesting that it wraps around like that. So, Data's trying to get the gun. He can't crack the code. Oh,
He would eventually, though. He could stay.
Yeah, he'd be one of those where his fingers are just moving so quick you can't see it, and he'd get it. I mean, it's just...
There isn't much time.
That's the problem with numerical codes, is there's only so many combinations.
Right. So she's gonna get off the ship with Data's help. They have a weapon and a means.
And honestly, they would be safer not taking the gun with them. But it's like Data needed it because he wanted to shoot his way out. But once she gets involved, that's a life that's at risk.
What's the rule if there's a weapon involved in a scene?
The line is, if you see a weapon in Act 1, it must be fired by Act 3.
Wow.
It doesn't apply if there's a gun at the end of the show, actually, because that's not building enough anticipation.
I always felt this was a whiplash ending here.
Totally.
Because there's no reason for her to get off the ship, and an escape pod would be
She's
really...
tired of getting threatened.
Yeah.
That's a reason to get off the ship.
But the escape pod would be a really easy thing for them to circle back and just pick up.
I'm glad this was done in 1990 and not, now where it would have been 2 episodes of him being trapped there or whatever, or the whole season is them trying to figure out what happened to Data.
That's a really weird. This is it's bigger than his shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
And it's an escape pod. And the necessary thing to launch it to is if there's an emergency, you got to go through all this to jump in your. escape pod and get out of there. This is why she needed the gun.
Yep. To get rid of the crewman.
Well, she doesn't have the abilities that Data does. Data can fight. She's not a combat person because, you know.
Now, Data could just launch that thing and just ram right through the doors.
Well, yeah, as you can see here, Data doesn't need a gun. He can just basically, literally, physically overpower people.
There are a lot of throw takes here. There's these two guys get thrown, and then Data gets thrown at the beginning when he bounces off the force shield.
Well, he wouldn't if he had done the escape himself. He could have just figured out a way to tell the Enterprise where he was and just stepped out of an airlock. He's probably too small for a tractor beam from this guy's ship to pick up.
See, now if I were her, he doesn't know she was in on it. It was her face that gave it away. She could have said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I followed Data down to the shuttle bay."
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh, he's gonna kill her. You know he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want her to think. He doesn't want her to think that he does. It's like,
well, no, not only that. I think
me.
he's struggling with. He's always wanted. He said he's always wanted to kill somebody with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so he's not a violent. He's not. I mean, you can see he's like that, but it's the whole. God, am I actually ever gonna? This is I finally have a chance to do this. Can I do it? Kind of
total coward. It's your fault.
Well, he's trying to play into his own manipulation. There will always be another person, he says.
Yeah, she was disposable.
Now, we were talking about Data and murder. Look at this.
You all hurt me.
I can't actually remember if he kills him or not.
No.
He doesn't kill him?
I'm a living being. Therefore, you can't harm me.
You will surrender yourself to the authorities.
For what? For fire? Empty threat, we both know it.
Has Data ever killed anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You will return to your chair and you will sit there. You will entertain me and you will entertain my guests. And if you don't, I'll simply kill someone else. Him, perhaps.
Let's kill that guy. He just goes, hey!
Bye.
Even with that force shield, Data has ways of basically subduing this guy.
Yeah.
Like, what I would do is I just blast the door control so they're both confined in there and then basically throw something at him to knock him out.
There you go.
If you wanted to get real crude about it.
Yeah, Data doesn't need air or food, and he can cut off all of those things.
Yeah, he's in the room and he's quicker than this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So all he has to do is just blast the door controls and then seal the door with his face, his gun there, if you want to do that. Yeah, and then he could just outweigh him and basically be like, yeah, we're going to sit in here until either you suffocate, the Enterprise finds us, or you let me go. And, he can't physically touch him, but you grab one of those crates and just bonk him on the head, hop in the escape pod, and go.
Right.
I mean,
So this is classic manipulation here. So he says, well, I'm going to bring you down. You can't feel. A lot of people will actually blame their victims for their weaknesses in order to manipulate them. Oh, look at that. Data get beamed out by O'Brien.
I'm reading a weapon in transit with Commander Data. It seems to have discharged, sir. Discharged.
Data was going to shoot him.
Yep.
He had made the decision.
I'm sorry, Mr. Commander. That means fired. Yeah.
Right?
Now, a good conversation for a later day was would you use a transporter?
Yeah, I think so.
Please arrange to have Kivas Roger taken
In a heartbeat.
No.
on charges of murder, kidnapping, theft.
Only if O'Brien was at the controls.
Well, then you know what I would do is I'd wait till you were asleep and I'd transport you and then transport you back to the same spot.
Well, that goes into the whole thing. You're actually killing yourself every time you get into a transporter. And then when you're rematerialized, you're in your new shiny body.
I just don't think you guys realize how lazy I am and just how much this would really, really benefit me.
That's past Sasha's problem. Future Sasha,
Exactly.
He's got this
Sascha
covered.
has a brand new body. Just off the assembly line. No, but on reality, I would use it. I would not have a problem. I don't... Yes, I understand the metaphysical stuff about it, but I'll be like... I just don't care. I mean, same thing with replicated food. Yeah, I could probably taste the difference, but I just wouldn't care.
Oh, I would
wouldn't
love
either.
to see this guy in the Picard series come back.
No.
That would be neat.
No. He's not that evil. He's just... What this guy probably happened is because he's, like you said, he's not super rich and powerful. He probably just went into a prison colony somewhere and either was able to buy himself a comfortable prison stay or...
Cut me up too quickly.
Yeah,
I need
he's-
my collection
Or lawyer his way out.
Unlikely, sir. Your collection has been...
If he was still alive, I really would have liked to have seen the Cardassian from Chain of Commands, the one who kidnapped Picard, make a comeback.
He's still alive.
I thought he died. No,
David
it was
Warner.
Tomalak who died.
Yeah, David Warner's still alive.
Because I would like to have seen Tomalak, especially since they're dealing with Romulans.
Yeah.
Be somehow in that.
I
But
don't feel pleasure. I am only an android.
Oh, look at that. He just troped him bad.
that would be funny. He comes back with the emotion chip when he finds him in prison. Hey, guess what? I found this thing that lets me feel emotions. Click. Oh, yeah. Good to see you in jail.
What I imagine
It just
happened to
leaves.
that guy is I assume that they turn him over to the government of his planet. And, they have to then determine whether or not, what he did was a crime as far as they're concerned. I mean, yeah, he doesn't get his ship back. Like, that's gone.
Yeah.
Which is a punishment enough.
And
But
his
all the
collection.
Stuff that yeah, that's what I'm saying. All the stuff that he loves. I said shit, not ship. All the stuff that he loves is taken away.
I don't think he'd necessarily go to his own government. It's unless he's an agent of that government, no, because we will imprison people from other countries.
Well, he committed a crime against the Federation, so
Yeah,
he's
against
going to go to he's going to go to a Federation stockade.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Unless there's another government that has a larger outstanding war. Because remember, he's stolen a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So there could be a couple other governments. Now, Starfleet may defer to another government and say, well, you've already had an outstanding warrant for...
They might have an extradition treaty.
Yeah, like Varya's planet may decide they want to try him for murder.
Yeah.
So they would defer to that because it's a higher charge.
I got a question about that. So, and this is a naval question for you, Matt. I know that when ships are in international waters, there's really no lock, so to say. So, like, if you were to kill somebody on a ship in international waters, can you get away with that?
What kind of ship is it?
I don't know.
A U.S. naval ship, you're under U.S. naval
Right.
law.
But, like...
Then there's the
do
prudential...
the laws-
Then there's international law that exists. And then there's the prudential law of the sea that most naval countries have chosen.
So everybody
Like salvage
agrees-
rights and
okay.
stuff like that and things. But no, if you're on a ship, you're adherent to the laws of the mother country of that ship.
Okay.
So if you're on a Russian ship, you're under Russian jurisdiction. You're on an American ship, you're American.
To wherever you're flagged
Yeah,
from.
if you're on a private cruise ship, I believe, and I'm not 100%, but I believe it's whatever country you're flying your flag from.
Yeah, what it would be, what you would worry about is if, say, you accidentally got a pontoon boat or something, your own pleasure craft out in international waters, and pirates came and stole all your shit, and you're like, oh god, pirates! And it's like, well, what the fuck were you doing out there in the first place?
The pontoon boat, yes, but a pleasure yacht or something. So if your boat is registered in a country, that's the same as flying the flag of that
Right?
country.
Or yeah,
That's a modern day equivalent. So
because you have to if you're a certain size, you have to inform the Coast Guard of your travel plans. don't you?
So if Paul Allen took his boat out in international waters and killed an assistant for helping Data escape, would he be tried under U.S.
yeah,
court? Okay.
a celebrity thing would be what's his name? What's her name? They had with well, she was killed at sea, and then they had those two actors.
Natalie Wood.
Natalie Wood. Same thing.
All right. So how many puppet aliens do we want to give this?
Oh, I'm gonna give it. I love this episode just because it's so cheesy. When I was a kid, I would have said I'd give you like a 4 out of 5 because it's just so off the ship. But now I only give it maybe a 2 or a 3 puppet aliens, mostly because it could have been executed a little bit better. I did like seeing Data establishing his values. I found it really fascinating that Data did make the decision to execute this guy, but O'Brien saved him from that shame at the last moment. And nobody seemed to follow up on that. That would have been a whole investigation in itself.
No, I don't want to see what's Matter of Perspective starring Data.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
All of those, that would just be irritating.
Right.
So, yeah, I give this 2.5. It passes the flick test. Like, if I was, watching regular TV and was clicking through and Measure of a Man was on, I'd probably sit and watch it. I don't know if it's just a low-energy day or what, but it just did not ring my bell.
No. It's a very sit down and watch someone poorly manipulate another person episode. It is a slow episode. We spent most of the time not talking about the episode. So, yeah, no, you're right to feel that way. Even on a high energy day, it's a clunky piece of work.
I'm going to give it a 2 also, only because I like anytime Saul is a guest star.
Yeah, Saul Rubinek is a good guy.
He played the part really well. In fact, he was the best acting, I think, out of the show. I'm just going to say this is further evidence for me, because the more I've watched this episode, the less and less I've liked it. At first, it started out for me as probably a 4 when I was younger.
Yeah.
And now it's just down to a 2. And then if we come back again in a few years, it'll be a 1. Just because at this point, again, my point is Star Trek: The Next Generation was just not well written. And look at the ratings we give these they're not high. I've always been a strong Deep Space Nine person. I think the writing was better on that show, personally.
Well, I was reading that article that you had posted on our Facebook page the other day about how right now, this moment in production, that was the hardest period for show writing for Next Gen. It's just there were so many episodes behind. They were just trying to get stuff through and into production.
And again, and that might be the reason, but that's still the end product is the end product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they had an unlimited budget and unlimited time to write these things, obviously every show would look great. But I count the number of these episodes that we look that we either we'll give it a good rating because it's so funny for this or one little random thing. But in reality, I mean, again, I just watched the entire run of all Star Trek network TV shows. I'm finishing up Enterprise right now. On a personal thing, I can count on one hand the number of episodes in each season of almost all of these shows. Deep Space Nine included sometime in some of the early seasons that I felt was worth my time watching, or that I stopped what I was doing and watched, because I play these as background when I'm doing stuff, that I stopped what I was doing and sat and watched the episode, I guess would be a better way to say it.
I would say that there is probably, I think there's 176 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I would say more than half are great, and then you have kind of a mediocre sampling, and then there's stuff like, people hate season 1, and I still would say that there are at least 2 episodes in season 1 that are worth watching multiple times. But really only 2. And then you have season 7, which should never have happened. It should have ended with... Star Trek: The Next Generation should have ended with season 6, and they could have done All Good Things at the end of that season.
Yeah, I sort of agree, but there's a number of episodes I like in season 7. I believe season 7 is the one where Deanna Troi finally gets her bridge qualification. That episode, Thine Own Self, which is a great Data and Deanna Troi episode.
And then you had that Mask episode where the Enterprise turned into an Aztec
Well, again,
temple.
you're gonna get one of those throwaway episodes in every season. Preemptive Strike, where you close out the Ensign Row storyline, was a very well written.
I barely remember that episode.
When that comes up, that's probably because again, having just recently watched it in the last couple months, was one that I stopped and watched. Stopped what I was doing and watched to the point where I actually burned something I was cooking. Yeah, granted, season 6 was a really good season, and if they had ended on that season 6, I'd have been fine with it. Because, the two-parter between 5 and 6, Time Zero, I thought was a good episode. Yeah. Descent, the 5 and the 5-6 crossover, one was just horrible.
Not good.
Was just horrible. And when we get to that, we'll obviously talk, but there was only 1 or 2 good things.
We're
we
gonna.
haven't seen.
Well, the thing about Descent is that when that happens, we're gonna know probably a lot more about lore and a lot more about Hugh from the Picard series.
And then my parts that I liked about Descent were not story based at all. They were just little things.
But anyway, that probably exhausts our the Most Toys episode.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'd like to say have a wonderful day.
Why am I interviewing you guys?
So you're the guest.
So Sascha, what is
So-
Star Trek
Hi,
Next
I'm
Generation?
the guest.
So, Sascha, what is Star Trek Next Generation?
Seek us out at Next Generation's First Generation at iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Music credits include Electric Car by Poddington Bear, Broke for Free, As Colorful as Ever, Glass Android, and Telecom by Lee Rosevere. Everyone is So Alive by Robot Dance. Audio engineering by Sascha Shouties. Chief Meme Maker and episode cover credit goes to Matthew Kirschner. Logo and graphic art design credit goes to David Clawwitter. And special thanks to Patrick Delmore for working with other podcasts to make sure the good word gets out.
Do you have a podcast that you think people should be listening to? Send us your promos and we'll play them on the show. If you'd like to email the show, you can email us at nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com. I've been Patrick Delmore.
And this is Sascha Shouties. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.
Good night.